I have such a love-hate relationship with eBay, and I think this week of sales explains why perfectly. Hi everyone, my name is Becky Park. I'm a part-time reseller on a variety of reselling platforms, and in today's What Sold video, I'm going to be talking specifically about sales on two different platforms. One is Poshmark and one is eBay. I will just say that in this week of sales, eBay blew Poshmark out of the water. Like, it wasn't even a fair contest. Like, I did more than double the amount on eBay than I did on Poshmark. And to be honest with you, that's one of my goals going into 2024 is to continue growing my eBay empire, because eBay really just has a much larger footprint than Poshmark. So it makes more sense to do better on eBay. And if I am doing better on eBay than I am on Poshmark, it means I'm doing this reselling thing right, I feel like. Because my things are being seen by more people when they're on eBay. And it just makes more sense that more things would sell over there. So I feel like I'm on the right track. Now, for the sake of full transparency, I am still very behind on my What Sold videos. I know some of you are not about that life. So if you don't want to hear me talk about the end of November into December, this is me saying it's okay for you to go ahead and click out of this video. I still love you. I totally get it. But I will also say it was a pretty incredible sales week, especially when it comes to eBay. So let's jump right into it. We're going to start by talking about Monday, which was November 27th. I did have a pretty decent Poshmark sale. It was this Coach Ashley signature satin satchel handbag with, like, you know, the logo canvas print. It was like in a khaki mahogany colorway. This sold for $40. I had picked it up in the summer of 2022 at a local consignment store during their birthday sale, and I only had $2.52 into it. That was a great birthday sale. I don't think I even put the things in the bag, because what that consignment store does for their birthday sales is they charge you by the bag. And they're those little shopping bags. They're not like big ones. So, you know, it's kind of hard to get a lot in there. But I think for that sale, the workers were actually the ones who were putting things in bags for you. And they were doing a good job. Like, they were not trying to like fluff things out so that they took up more space. I mean, they had a system down where they were like, you know, rolling things and putting things in shoes. Like, they got a lot of things in one bag, and I think that that's why my cost of goods was so low. And so my net profit on that bag was $29.48. Most Coach, especially kind of the bigger the bag, does decent. Some Coach is super desirable, but this Coach bag did about what I thought it would, and I definitely did not mind spending $2.52 on it. The next sale was over on eBay, and I sold this Talbot's red tartan plaid wool blend scallop pencil skirt in a size 4. It was fully lined. It sold for $29.50. That was an offer that someone sent to me, and I actually had a very similar skirt to this one sell later on in the week, and I'm not surprised, because what holiday was about to come up? Christmas.
Merry Christmas!
This is a perfect Christmas skirt, and that was part of the reason as to why I had purchased this skirt in the first place. I purchased it in August of 2023 at a local consignment store during one of their sidewalk sales. I had $4 into it, and so my net profit on that skirt was $20.76, which is exactly where I want to be when it comes to my net profit on items. I'm willing to spend kind of whatever as long as I can make at least a $20 profit. Obviously, if I'm spending a lot of money on something, like if I'm spending $100 on something, I'm not spending $100 hoping to make $20 of profit. But if it's like a bread and butter type item, Talbot's is like the queen of bread and butter for me. I'm willing to spend $4, $5, even $10 if it means that I can make a $20 profit, and that's exactly what happened here. The next thing to sell is the first example of why I have a love-hate relationship with eBay. You're going to hear about some amazing sales this week on eBay, but there were also 3 returns in 1 week. Now, in last week's What Sold video, I talked about how sometimes on eBay, people will open returns, but they won't actually send you the item back in a timely manner. And if that happens, eBay will just close the return. You'll get your funds, and that's the end of it. However, on these 3 returns from this week, Every single one of them sent their items back to me. I lost, any profit that I would have made on those items. It is what it is. If it's an item that has such a severe flaw that you had missed, you just throw it away, you donate it, whatever. And some of the items, most of the items get returned just because it doesn't fit the person the way that they want it to. And I get that. I don't want someone to be out a certain amount of money and be stuck with something that doesn't fit them. So I'm more than willing and even happy to take the return. If I can, I'll just relist it and sell it again. So the first item that I sold that ended up getting returned to me was by Anthropologie. It was Leaf Notes, which is one of their house brands. And it was this blue eyelet, one button cropped blazer in a size 8. Now it was cropped. The person said that it wasn't a true size 8. They were like, this must have shrunk in the wash or something. I think more likely what happened was this blazer just was smaller and shorter than they thought it was going to be, given that it was a cropped, kind of form-fitting blazer. And maybe they were expecting something different, like more full length. I don't know. That's okay. I think I already went ahead and relisted it, and it'll sell again at some point. But this next sale made up for that return because it was a Magnolia Pearl sale. And y'all know that Magnolia Pearl is one of my favorite brands to resell because even though it's just pieces of cotton with the words Magnolia Pearl etched onto the back somewhere, these pieces of cotton can fetch so much money. So I had gone to a pop-up consignment sale in October. And at that consignment sale, there were a good number of Magnolia Pearl pieces. Most of them were just priced so high. Some of them were priced at like $400. I was like, who is coming to this consignment sale paying $400 for these things? This white long sleeve maxi distressed dress, it was like a one size fits most dress. This dress was actually on a hanger with another dress layered over it. It was like a spaghetti strap, again, maxi dress, kind of in like a mauve color. And the two dresses together were priced at $200. Now on half off day, they were priced at $100. And in my mind, I was like, I'm gonna sell these separately, so my cost of goods per item is $50. $50 for one item is very scary for me. That's a lot of money to have into one item. That is not something that I'm accustomed to doing, but I have enough experience selling Magnolia Pearl that I knew I would probably be okay. Now, the dress that was on top of this one, the kind of like pinky mauve one, that one already sold, and I think it sold for like $150, literally hours after I listed it. This dress sold for $225. I did have it listed pretty high, but it did finally sell for $225, about a month after I listed it. Again, I had $50 into it. It was promoted at 3%. My net profit on that was $136.69. So would I have been upset if I had paid $50 for this and made a net profit of $20? Yes, because that's kind of silly. If I'm going to spend $50 on something, I'm hoping that my return is going to be something like this. So I was ecstatic when that sold, and the great sales on eBay did not end there. Neither did the returns, but I did also have some more great sales. So on Tuesday, which was November 28th, on Poshmark, I sold this Alberto McCauley watercolor abstract multi-print v-neck tunic in a size large. Alberto McCauley is one of those brands that I think retails for a good amount. I think they sell this brand at high-end department stores and stuff. I don't particularly like their pieces. They're a bit loud for me. They're a bit loud, and this definitely was no exception. It was something that I got from a reseller buyout that I did like 2 years ago at this point. It was from a reseller who had just begun reselling, and about a year into it realized she really hated reselling clothes, and so she had reached out and asked if I'd be willing to buy all of her clothing inventory off of her. I said yes. This was one of the items. I went ahead and listed it. It sold for $25. I had about 2 into it, so my net profit on that was $18. But I, first of all, don't even find Alberto McCauley that often in the wild in the first place, and when I do, I more often than not leave it behind. I think I've only picked it up once. The next thing to sell was on eBay. This was a sad return. So it was this pair of Todd's tan suede slip-on driving loafers in a women's size 8. I had picked them up for really cheap. I picked them up at a local consignment store during their birthday sale. I had less than $5 into them, and they sold for $74.99. That was my full asking price. They sold after having been listed for a few months. The person opened a return. They said that the soles were so worn, and they were like, the seller should have, said so in the listing. I didn't remember them being that worn. I thought that they were in great condition, actually. And I looked through the pictures again, and they were in great condition. However, when the person sent them back to me, the soles had literally deteriorated. They were crumbly, chunks of the sole had fallen off. And sometimes that happens to shoes. It's called dry rot, and you see it a lot on brands like Dansko, on those clogs. You can see it on a lot of different kinds of shoes. It hadn't happened when they were in my possession, and even when I was packaging them up, they were in great condition. But somehow, in the time that it took for it to go from my house to the buyer's house, they just crumbled and fell apart. So when I got them back, when I opened the bag and saw them in the state that they were in, I was like, there's no saving these. I just went ahead and threw them away. It was sad, but also I was thankful that I had less than $5 into them. But man, losing a $75 sale, that one hurts. On Wednesday, which was November 29th, on Poshmark, I sold this vintage Lily Pulitzer yellow tropical floral A-line skirt in a size 6. I got this like 3 years ago from a reseller buyout. It was a reseller who had too much inventory, and she was trying to let go of a lot of it, and so she sold me like a half pallet of clothes. I had $3.92 into it. It sold for $18. I made a net profit of $9.68. There were a good number of these vintage Lily Pulitzer skirts in, that buyout. The issue was most of them had like little spots and stains all over them, which I believe this had. And obviously that's going to make it harder for something to sell. That's probably why it took so long to sell. And also, I just don't know if like these prints are that desirable or anything like that. But I do always encourage people to list things that are flawed or that have stains, because there is someone out there who is willing to buy those items and bring them back to life, and that's what I hope happened with this item. The next thing to sell was a bundle. I talked in last week's What Sold video too about how I've been selling through a lot more bundles, which is really exciting. So this one I had 4 items into. The first one was this dress by Peruvian Connection. It was a blue striped Pima cotton sweater dress in a size medium. I had $12 into that from a local consignment store, and I had that dress for a full year at that point. So I was very happy to see that dress go. And I do love selling Peruvian Connection, but I think it's more their wool and silk pieces that do better than, just plain cotton. And I mean, this was Pima cotton, but still. The next thing to sell was by the brand Tabitha. It was this gray wool blend belted pleated dress in a size medium. It did have pockets. This was another piece that I got at that local consignment store as part of the birthday sale. I had $2.52 into it. I've had that one for a while as well. I got that in July of 2022. So that's been listed for quite some time, so I was happy to see that go as well. The next thing to sell was this pair of new Nina Ricci black leather suede gloves. These were black, but they had like a burgundy trim on them, and they were in a size extra small/small. These were something that my mother-in-law had given to me for free. I've had these for so long. Like at least 2 years, but I think even longer, because these I actually sent into the Real when I was trying out the Real. Nina Ricci is a pretty high-end brand, and the Real did accept them, but they were not able to sell them in a timely manner, so I requested that they send them back, and they did, and then I went ahead and listed them myself. They were listed, for at least a solid year, and they finally sold as part of this bundle, which I was very happy about. And then the last thing to sell was this Athleta Reflective Details Relay. I think that's the style name. I could be reading it wrong. Black high-rise leggings in a size medium. I had $4.29 into those from a garage sale that my friend Adrienne had in April of 2023. She is a fellow reseller, but has decided that she really wants to stick to selling vintage clothing, and so she has these amazing garage sales at her mom's house near the school that I teach at about twice a year, and she always lets me know now that we've made that connection. She'll let me know when she's coming into town and always give me a really great deal on stuff because I get so much stuff from her. So about $4.29 into those. Now, this bundle was kind of an interesting situation. She put 2 items of the 4 into a bundle. I sent her an offer and she purchased them. And then she put 2 more items in a new bundle and was about to purchase those as well. She was like, well, how much for these? And I was like, okay, hold up. I was like, let's start over. Let me just put all of these items into one bundle, and that way you only have to pay for shipping once. You could tell she was maybe a little bit newer to Poshmark. I don't do that all the time, especially if I get the sense that by doing that and by explaining how all of that works, that I might lose the sale. Some people are like, this is overly complicated. I'm out. I don't actually need this stuff that much. But I got the sense from her that she'd be willing to kind of go through the process process because she really wanted the item. So I canceled the first bundle and we made a new bundle with the 4 items in it. I sent her an offer of $139. That's what we had agreed upon. My cost of goods for those 4 items was $18.81. And so my net profit on that bundle was $89.41. I was happy with that given that the majority of those items were pretty old listings and I just wanted to go ahead and move them. So even though it wasn't that much money per item as far as profits is concerned, I'm still considering it a win. On Thursday, which was November 30th, on Poshmark, I sold this Adidas Moment black 3/4 sleeve dress in a size small. I'm laughing because this is from September of 2021. And I still remember like going back and forth at the Plato's Closet being like, should I get this? I shouldn't. It's really cute. I'm not gonna get it. I need to get, like, I just remember like holding this stupid dress up for like 5 minutes being like, okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and get it. I think it's gonna resell really well. And here we are now, a full 2 years later. I did sell it for $30 and that was with discounted shipping. I had $5.14 into that dress because it was like probably like a 60 or 70% off clearance sale at Plato's Closet. I made my net profit of $16.84, but I think that it was not a dress that I needed to get. I just sat on it for so long. The next thing to sell on eBay was that Talbot skirt that I was telling you about. This one was so similar to the one that I'd sold on Monday. This one was red and black plaid. It was a wool blend, and it was a pencil skirt in a size 8, and it was also fully lined. This one sold for $24.90. That was an offer that I sent out to watchers, and I got it in April of 2023 at a local consignment store during their sidewalk sale for $4.20, and so my net profit on that skirt was $16.01, which isn't a ton, but that's pretty good for a skirt. I feel like skirts are kind of a harder sell lately, so I was pretty impressed that I made that much on a skirt. The next thing to sell was kind of a silly sale. It was this Boo fleece vest. It had like buttons that were in the shape of stars, which is really cute, and it was very clearly a Christmas vest, which makes sense that it sold on November 30th. It was in a women's size medium. It sold for $20. It was promoted at 3%. I had $2 into it from the reseller who realized she did not like reselling clothing, and so my net profit on that was $14.90. Again, something like this, I don't know, like sometimes I'm in the mood to pick them up when I'm at the thrift store, but recently I've discovered that especially if you're sourcing for Christmas stuff in like November or even October, thrift stores are marking those things up like crazy because they know that people are looking for ugly Christmas sweaters and things like that for holiday parties. And so they make them a lot more expensive than they need to. But getting something like this in a reseller buyout, sure. $2 into it, I'll go ahead and list it. The next thing to sell was this Champion Navy ribbed V-neck pullover adjustable jacket in a men's size medium. Ooh, I've had this for a long time. This is from the Indianapolis outlet, and I got it in October of 2001. So a little bit newer, I guess, than that Adidas dress, but I've had this for quite some time. This sold for $20 finally, and it was promoted at 3% as well. My cost of goods was $1.66 because it is so cheap to source at the bins, especially if you're purchasing lightweight items. And so my net profit on that was $15.92. On Friday, which was December 1st, on Poshmark, I sold this Polo Ralph Lauren blue shawl collar pullover sweater in a size medium. That sold for $25. I probably could have held out and gotten like $30 or $35 for it even, but because it was something that I had pretty recently listed, I was like, I'm okay with the quick flip. I only had $3.47 into it from a local consignment store's birthday sale, and my net profit on that was $16.53. Polo Ralph Lauren, especially for men, is one of my favorite bread and butter brands. It sells really well for me. Typically, it sells pretty quickly, and I usually make really good money on it. The next thing to sell was my third return of the week on eBay. It was this pair of New With Tags Loft Modern Straight Corduroy Pants in a size 24. They were beige. They were returned because they were too long, and I've had those for so long, so I'm so sad that the sale didn't go through, but I'll just go ahead and list them again and we'll try again. Loft takes forever to sell, plus these are a smaller size, so I'm not surprised that it took forever to sell in the first place. We'll just try again though. The next thing to sell on eBay was this pair of Huck Attack Cryptech gray fishing outdoor sneakers or like shoes in a men's size 8.5. I had never heard of Huck Attack before. It's not a brand that was on my radar. I saw these at my local consignment store during their birthday sale, and I was like, let me just look up comps really quick. Comps were great. And since selling these, I actually was going through, I had all my reselling stuff in our spare bedroom in the basement, and my brother was coming in town and staying at our house for Christmas. It was like my brother, my mother-in-law, my parents, like we had all these people. So we had to clean out that room to make space for him. And in cleaning it out and in like getting inventory that hadn't been listed yet, like steamed and hung up and all that kind of stuff, I realized that I had 2 Huck shirts as well. So I'm very excited to list those because these shoes sold for my full asking price of $44.99, which I thought was great. I had $3.47 into them from that local consignment store's birthday sale, and my net profit on those was $35.92. I think I did share about this sale on my Instagram, and a lot of you were like, yeah, Huck does really, really great. So that's definitely a brand to be on the lookout for. On Saturday, which was December 2nd, on Poshmark, I sold this pair of Harley Davidson Jessie, that was the style name, black leather studded Western moto boots in a women's size 8. So actually kind of around this time, I think it was during this week, I was sharing all of my sales on Instagram because I was trying to see if I could make $750 in 1 week. I did fall short by a little bit, but I remember sharing this particular sale, this pair of Harley Davidson boots, and a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, like those are the cutest Harley Davidson boots I've ever seen. And I agree. I got these at the same local consignment store during their birthday sale, but this was like a different birthday sale. This one was in July of 2023. This consignment store has 2 locations, which is why there are 2 birthday sales a year for this consignment store because there's one for each location. So these I got for $4.55. That was my average cost of goods that day. And so my net profit was $35.45 on those. Harley Davidson boots, 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna pick them up if the price is right. On eBay, I sold this pair of Minnetonka Thunderbird red beaded suede slip-on fringe moccasins in a size 8. Minnetonka moccasins usually take a little while to sell for me, but these sold really fast. I want to say within days. And I think it's because they were kind of Christmassy and Christmas was coming up at this time because, you know, this is an old video. I'm behind. I get it. But these sold for $25. I hit $5 into them from my friend's garage sale. They were promoted at 3% and my net profit on those was $15.26. By the way, I shared this in last week's video, but this I'm filming this right after that one. I'm sitting down and filming like multiple videos at once. This eye is really messed up. I don't know what's wrong with it. And this ring light is really messing it up even more. So I'm just like speeding through these because I cannot look at this light any longer. Okay, but this next sale was so amazing. So I went to an estate sale at this amazing house in my neighborhood over the summer. Was it the summer? Maybe it was like at the very beginning of the school year. Amazing house. It looks like a castle from the outside. It looks like it belongs in like Beauty and the Beast or something. It's a really cool house. I saw that they were having an estate sale and I had to go. I just wanted to see what the inside of the house looked like, and I assumed that they would have really cool stuff because it was a really nice house. I got a lot of really great clothing pieces, but I also went into their garage and found this beauty. And by beauty, I mean this terrifying figurine. So this is a vintage P. Coused. That was the signature that was on this wooden figurine. 1996 folk art wood carved woman. She was like an angel figurine. She was 10 inches tall. I put the word Christmas in the listing title. I got a little scared looking at her. But when I looked up comps while at this estate sale, while I didn't see a lot of comps from the artist P. Coused specifically, I saw comps that were similar in style to this, and they were pretty good. So I was like, they're asking $5, or it was like $5.25. I was like, I'll give them $5.25 and just see what happens. And to be honest, it took me like a couple weeks to get around to listing it just because I'm not good about listing things that I don't know a lot about because I know it's going to take me a while, but I sucked it up. I just hurried up and did it because I was like, I need to get this listed before Christmas. And it's a good thing that I did because it sold for my full asking price of $99.99. That was promoted at 3%, and my net profit on that was $75.46. Typically when I spend $5, I'm going to make around like a $20 profit. So to make a $75 profit, that felt pretty good. So moral of the story, when you see weird, kooky, sometimes terrifying things, maybe they're worth just looking up comps for because you never know. And the great thing is I had another one of these and it sold, I want to say, the next week. So if you want to learn more about that sale, definitely make sure that you hit subscribe because I will be talking about that sale as well in an upcoming What Sold video. And then finally on Sunday, which was December 3rd on eBay, I had my second Magnolia Pearl sale. It was this cotton Galaxy Stars Francis pullover tunic top in Aratus. I think Aratus was the color name. It's a one size fits most because that's how Magnolia Pearl does it. To be honest with you, I paid way too much for this. I paid a lot for it, thinking that it would be worth it. And it really should have been, except for the fact that I didn't realize while I was at the sale that there were a couple holes in the back. Now, to be honest with you, Magnolia Pearl pieces with holes in them, not a big deal because Magnolia pieces generally look so distressed and look so like lived in and worn in to begin with that a couple holes aren't really going to bother anyone who's wearing stuff by this brand. But I don't think that they were there purposefully. I think that they were actual flaws. So of course I had to take pictures of them. I had to disclose the flaws and I couldn't really list it as high as I wanted to, as high as comps were showing. So I had $120 into this item. That's how much faith I have in this brand. I paid $120 for this item when it was full price. I didn't even wait till half off day because I was scared that at half off day there would be no more Magnolia Pearl pieces left. So I did just buy this one on the full price day. It did sell for $215. It was promoted at 3%. I still made $59.81, which is still a great amount of money. I don't think it's a win when you consider the fact that I had $120 into it to begin with, but $60 in my bank account is nothing to sneeze at, so I will take it. I just wish I hadn't spent $120 to make $60. You know what I'm saying? But holy moly, if you find Magnolia Pearl, pick it up, even if you're paying $50, sometimes $60, sometimes even $120. Look up the style first if you can. Try to find comps to make sure that the actual piece that you have in your hands is going to sell for a good amount before you drop, $100 on something. But Magnolia Pearl pieces just sell for so much and they sell so fast. The next thing to sell was this vintage Pierre Cardin, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it was this Baskin black 100% pure virgin wool overcoat in a men's size extra large. This sold for $69.99, which was amazing, and it was part of a reseller buyout, so I had $3.85 into that item. This was the same reseller buyout where I got a Burberry's coat that sold for like over $200 maybe a couple weeks ago. The issue is this person has opened a return. Now, this return has not made its way back to me, so it's possible that maybe they won't actually send it back, and maybe I will get to keep the $62.38 of profit that I'm supposed to have made on that jacket. Only time will tell. They have a few days left to get that item back to me. Here's to hoping that they don't. The issue was that it was too short. They said they got it and it was just too short. What are you going to do? Vintage pieces generally are smaller than what people think that they will be because back in the day, sizes were a little bit different and they skewed smaller than they do now. And that's why, especially on vintage pieces, I think it's very important to, provide measurements and as many measurements as you can because they just fit differently than what that same size would fit like today. And then the last sale was this Lululemon Black Kung Fu Luon Pull-On Athleisure Loungewear Pants in a men's size extra large. I actually remember when I got these and I was hauling them, I was like, oh no, are these counterfeit Lululemon? Because the logo was not inside of a circle like I'm used to seeing, but they were inside of like a very geometric shape. But you guys were like, oh no, that's men's. Like that's what you let me know in the comments. And I think I did some research too, and I was like, oh, they're men's. This is how little Lululemon I find. I don't find a lot of Lululemon in my area, and I don't find a lot of men's, obviously, or like maybe I've never found men's Lululemon in the wild. But these sold eventually for $30. I had $4.77 into them from that reseller garage sale, and so my net profit on those was $20.32. That was another one that, you know, I got a lot of offers on it right away, a lot of lowball offers in like the 20s. So I was happy to finally move it for 30. I think I had it listed for around 40 maybe. So 30 was very reasonable to me. And I think that was kind of a back and forth, like we countered quite a bit and finally arrived at 30, and I was very happy to let them go at that price. So let's talk about my numbers. I only sold items on 2 platforms, and on Poshmark I sold 11 items for a gross sales amount of $362. When you factor in Poshmark's fees and discounted shipping, that total drops to $284.60. My cost of goods for those 11 items was $45.41, and so my net profit on Poshmark was $239.19, which isn't bad. That's definitely more than the amount of net profit that I made on Poshmark in the previous week. On eBay, I sold 12 items. I'm not including my returns here. I'm only including that last jacket that like they opened a return, but it hasn't actually gotten returned. But like all the other ones where like they returned it for real, I'm not getting that money. I'm not including that information. So 12 actual sales that like went through. My gross sales amount on eBay is $829.37. That's because of all that magnolia pearl. That's because of that wood figurine. I mean, that is amazing for me. Once you factor in fees, that total drops to $698.54. I had $204.20 into those items because I paid so friggin' much for all that magnolia pearl. I mean, just magnolia pearl alone was $170 as far as cost of goods is concerned. But my net profit on eBay was $494.34, which is a little more than double the amount that I made on Poshmark. So like I said, eBay just demolished Poshmark this week, and that's amazing to me. Like, I love that eBay has been performing for me like that. So in total, I sold 23 items for a gross sales amount of $1,191.37. My profit dropped to $983.14 after you factor in fees and shipping. My cost of goods was $249.61, and so my net profit for the week was $733.53. This is why I try to be as transparent as possible in my what sold videos as far as sharing like how much I paid for everything, you know, what's the total after you factor in fees and all that kind of stuff, because I could have put in my thumbnail, I made $1,191.37 this week, which technically I kind of did, like that was my gross sales amount, but like if that's all I shared, that's a lot more impressive than the amount that actually made its way into my bank account, which was 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, almost $400 less than what my gross sales amount was, because my cost of goods was unusually high this week. And if I didn't share that with you, you'd walk away from this video being like, oh my gosh, like she made almost $1,200 that week. And that would be a lie. That would be very misleading of me to have you think that about my sales week. It would sound much more impressive, but that's not actually what happened. And that's why I strive to be as transparent and honest with you guys in these videos, even when it comes to returns or how much I'm paying for things, because I think it's important for you to know. So if you value that kind of transparency and honesty, I would appreciate a little bit of that thumbs up action. You just hit it. Is it here? Is it here? I don't know. It's in one of those spots. Just hit that thumbs up for me. So in November, I actually made a net profit. Again, this is after cost of goods and fees are accounted for and all that kind of stuff. My net profit was $2,064.60, which is one of my better months in the year of 2023. And year to date so far, I have made $17,497.77 as my net profit just from reselling. it is nowhere near where I wanted it to be. And I, to be honest with you, don't even think that I will have made a net profit of $20,000 this year. This was a low year of profits for me when it comes to reselling. And it's for a number of reasons. I'm okay with it. I'm not like crying myself to sleep. And it's because I know what this year consisted of for me in my professional life, in my personal life. I'm still pretty friggin' proud of that number. I think it's great for a part-timer. Of course, I'm hoping to do more in the year 2024, but not at the sake of spending more time on my reselling business. In fact, I actually want to see if I can cut some hours from my reselling business and make more money just by being smarter, just by working smarter and not harder. So we'll see if that happens. If you want to see if that happens, make sure to hit that subscribe button as I continue to share my reselling journey with you. I hope that the beginning of 2024 has been wonderful for you and that you are doing great with your reselling goals. Let me know down in the comments if 2024 has been good to you so far. I feel like it's been decent for me given the fact that I didn't do anything reselling related for the first 4 days of the year because I was in Florida with my students. We were at Disney World and Universal Studios. We performed and it was a great time, but I was not going to try to come home after 12 hours in the parks and list something. You know what I mean? So it was kind of a rough way to start the month as far as listing on my end goes, but thankfully I've still been making sales, and since I've returned from that trip, I have been listing much more consistently and seeing it pay off. So that is everything for this video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I love and appreciate you guys and hope that you are just living your best lives. Thank you, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!